This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. T-minus 48 plus hours till opening day. The Yankees in a standalone game on Netflix. The roster is almost finalized, and people are angry now about decisions that were made in November. Jasson Domínguez goes down after having an incredible spring. The Yankees might be sending Luis Gil to the minors too, which will help them out in the bullpen decision-making matrix. But people are still upset because they feel like they're weighing roster math over performance. On the surface, I hear you. Sometimes it's hard to advocate for someone who's performing worse, getting the job over someone who's performing better. But in this case with the New York Yankees, I kind of think every single decision they have made so far makes sense, except for one. I am as annoyed as anyone with the Ryan Weathers thing. If you're going to send one reliever down to the minors, maybe that's the guy. But sending a reliever down to the minors, a starter, that makes sense. That is something that not only makes sense, it's something they have to do. But we'll go back and forth, I'm sure, and debate it a little bit. And if you want to weigh in the comments, we'll respond in kind. We'll be cool to you. We will not be mean. We will, in fact, be nice. It's Yankees baseball. It's time for Yankees baseball, as they occasionally say on the Yes Network. It is time for Ben Rice to get that Rice money. The Yankees are almost underway. Thomas Carannante, welcome to the show. A little more left to be sorted out. Maybe we'll even get a roster decision during this show. But the bench is settled. The first four-man rotation is settled. And then how they handle that fifth spot plus the bullpen is TBD. Maybe to be determined during the stream. You simply never know.
Bring it. Here is, before we get into the specifics, here's my opinion. The Yankees' decisions are the Yankees' decisions. Do they make sense? Yeah, in some capacity, they make sense. Are they uninspiring? Yes. Should they be questioned? Yeah, some. I get that at the beginning of the year, you want flexibility with the roster decision. So, like, for example, the Randal Grichuk thing, it's either he's on the team or he's gone. So you need to bring him aboard in order to get any use out of him or see what he's capable of. Whereas Jasson Domínguez has options, and you could send him down, which is probably the first topic we should speak of.
Yes.
That said, I just don't know, looking at everything, as we will look from top to bottom, if this team is much better or really better at all. I genuinely just don't. It's not me being negative. It's not me trying to find something to nitpick. If you mention something, if you question anything now about the Yankees, like even Jon Heyman wrote that thing the other day about, like, after the opening day roster stuff coming into focus, the Trent Grisham decision looking like a giant waste of money. Yeah. Like, everyone's saying he's rage baiting. It's like, I understand this is something we've been talking about since November, but now that the roster decisions have come out, like, it does seem like a giant waste of money. And I understand that that's not what you want to hear right before opening day. That's not what you want to hear when we are trying to focus on a clean slate and a brand new season, but it's more of the same. And I don't like, we have emphasized for so many years that the Yankees have had poor depth, a poor bench, and all these things. And now they prioritize depth and they prioritize their bench. But did they really? I'm asking, did they really? That's all I want to know, because it doesn't feel like they did. It feels like they got more bodies that are a bit more capable and not just a bunch of coin flips, which is obviously progress. But does that change their trajectory from wild card playoff team to bona fide division winner and AL pennant? I just don't think it does. So I'm sorry if you guys are upset by that intro.
People are so mad. People are throwing tomatoes.
Adam's a little bit more optimistic here than I am. We could start with Domínguez. Domínguez, I think we all knew it was coming, and that was the frustrating part about this, right? My frustration with the entire decision-making is that it was all predetermined. We heard from John Hay. I went back because I was like, I remember we heard this at the beginning of spring training. Jasson Domínguez was rumored to start the year in AAA, barring unforeseen circumstances. And I was like, what are the unforeseen circumstances? Like, if he hits 500 in spring training, that's the only way that's going to get him an opening day roster spot.
Injury, or their inability to sign Randal Grichuk. Like, if Randal Grichuk refused to take a minor league deal, I guess they'd have to consider it. But other than that,
I know. And on February 6th, the rumor came out and it felt like a bombshell at that point because you were like, this guy just played. There's a lot of concerns with Jasson Dominguez, right? And it depends on how the Yankees want to utilize him. Do they think he's a threat from the right side of the plate? Do they value his defense in left field, or do they view him in left field for the long haul? I don't know the answer to either of those questions, but the fact of the matter is that he played in 123 games. He was an average bat. If you have him just hit from the left side of the plate, he's an above average bat and a threat on the base paths and a really good bench piece. The Yankees' excuse here seems to be he needs everyday reps. I do see some of that because he didn't get everyday reps in 2024 after the Tommy John surgery. And then last year, he lost a lot of playing time down the stretch, and that probably affected what he was able to do. But at this point, playing against inferior talent, and we discussed this previously, watching his numbers and his defense has not really improved. He doesn't seem to be apt on the defensive end. Dropped the fly ball yesterday, just lost it in the sun. Yep. And his right-handed hitting could improve, but probably won't because it's regressed every level he's gone up in the minor leagues. So I just don't know what they want to do here. And showcasing him in AAA is not going to help his trade value. I don't think it's going to help his mental state. I don't think it's going to motivate him more. I think it's just a crummy decision that doesn't really make any sense. And it's another of the Yankees doing because they got too many left-handed hitters and now they can't justify having another one on the roster. So this one, again, expected. We knew it was coming, but now it happens and you look back on everything and you're just like, what are we doing? Well, what's going on?
I am going to play some different roles throughout this podcast, I think, because there are definitely, I'm going to give like hypotheticals where I fall on either side of the fence. And in Dominguez's case, I'm going to be, I see the case and we will not know the full impact until a month down the line. And there is a chance that on May 1st, we're doing the same podcast where I say, yeah, it negatively affected his mental state. He's hitting 178 at AAA. He's not working on anything. There's definitely a chance that happens. And he does not have trade value right now. And as I feel like I yelled on 30 podcasts this offseason, there's no one out there that I'd want to trade him for that opposing teams would want to surrender for him. It's correct. Relievers with control or it's a dump. And so if you're trying to tell me you don't want to tank his trade value anymore, it's tanked past the point where I want to trade him. Like I'm already in the position where either I see him contributing to the Yankees or he wastes away in the system. There's nothing else to obtain from Jasson Dominguez as far as I'm concerned. He was amazing this spring, except for some of the defensive stuff. But if you want to rage about this decision, you got to go back to Trent Grisham. You don't have to go back to Randal Grichuk. You do not have to go back to any of the recent maneuverings in his spring training. Like Thomas said, it can be frustrating because this does date back to the beginning of the offseason. This was essentially predetermined. Either they're trading Dominguez at a value that they feel comfortable with, or he's starting at AAA to get the everyday reps that he definitely needs. Until I see what it does to his mental state, I am going to say I do think he needs everyday reps over being the slotted in fourth outfielder, especially because what they need is someone who does a thing that he does not do, which is hit lefties, which is what Randal Grichuk does. People are yelling about the Yankees messing with Jasson Dominguez's development. Again, I would argue that whatever damage has been incurred was done long before spring began and before this decision was made. Because there are three all-star types who are starting ahead of him after the Grisham addition. Depending on what you feel about Grisham, you think he's due for a big regression, a moderate regression, no regression at all, your mileage may vary. I was not a fan of giving out the QO to Grisham. If you ask me, do you want to erase that? If you could, I would. I do not need him on this team. But as things currently stand, Bellinger, Judge, Grisham, yes, they all should start over Jasson Dominguez. Giancarlo Stanton, yes, he should start over Jasson Dominguez. Should Jasson Dominguez be the fourth outfielder over Randal Grichuk? In my opinion, no. If they hadn't signed Randal Grichuk, yes. If Randal Grichuk does not do what he's supposed to do, if the metrics never match up to the back of the baseball card, if he's hitting 162 with one homer on May 10th, he's gone. They're not wedded to Randal Grichuk. So that's one area in which I'll push back against a lot of fans saying they pick roster math. They pick just because of his handedness. I have no reason to believe that if Grichuk is doing absolutely nothing, that there's going to be anyone in the room that's going to advocate for him to remain on this roster all year. Now, maybe it's not Dominguez who gets the call. Maybe it's Schuemann. Maybe that's what they do for Oswaldo Cabrera. And that's, again, only if no one ever gets hurt. If a bat first player gets hurt,
yeah.
If Stanton goes down, Dominguez is up immediately and he's playing the DH role every day. And Stanton's contract is just this year and next year. So as crazy as it sounds to continue to make a 23-year-old wait it out, we're talking about a 25-year-old penciled into the starting DH role with outfield flexibility if they just keep him and he continues to play pretty well this year. The other thing that kept cropping up over the weekend is the Christian Campbell comparison and Red Sox fans pushing back. And I think Yankee fans are somewhat to blame here because people seem to be misinformed on Dominguez's prospect status because of Yankee fans paying constant attention to him. Mm-hmm. Guilty as charged. We are watching him a lot. And the hype when he was first signed, which was the bonus, which is in line with other bonuses at this point. It wasn't like they paid him $30 million. It was like a $5+ million, maybe a $6 million bonus. And then people writing insane columns, calling him the next Mickey Mantle and this Mike Trout hybrid. Those were insane. Those should never have been written. People should learn from that mistake, and they should not do that. But they did it because he's a Yankee. I understand. This is the unique circumstance of this fandom. You're going to have bullshit for clicks at the arrival of a teenage player so that there is undeniable hype around the signing. This was like 2020. And so we've come a long way from there. But at no point since that moment has Dominguez been anything higher than like a 38th ranked prospect out of 100 in anyone's system. Baseball America, MLB Pipeline. I think he peaked at like 37, 38. He was in the 80s for a while. We were kind of frustrated that the hype was not matching the output. But you have Red Sox fans comparing Boston demoting $60 million worth of Christian Campbell's contract to the Yankees demoting Dominguez this year. You have them comparing it for two reasons. One, the hype around Dominguez. And two, they say we've heard about Dominguez forever and he's been up and down for 3 years. Well, Campbell's been up and down for 2 years. He actually hasn't been up and down. He's just been down. Because once he's gone in the minors, he hasn't done anything and they haven't cared about him. So would you rather someone be yo-yoed or forgotten about? That's a question for the Red Sox fans on the audio feed and on the stream afterwards. But 2 years for Campbell, last year and this year. Dominguez, 24, 25, 26. The difference between 2 and 3 years, it's what's saying Red Sox fans, it's what's giving them that feeling of fatigue. No, I think it is obviously the post-hype Dominguez, the fact that they heard all about him when he was signed. That has warped the reality because what we've actually got here is Dominguez getting Tommy John surgery between 23 and 24, rehabbing in 24, getting injured when he came up in 24, barely playing in 24, and then last year being a league average bat with defensive deficiencies, and this year being blocked by 3 better players in the lineup. And again, for good measure, after a bunch of disingenuous takes came out, dropping a fly ball yesterday, in case people just forgot that the defense isn't there. Yeah. It's a high fly ball, and he dropped it. I love Jasson Domínguez, like to love. I'm on the record again that, would I have signed Grichuk in the first place? Should the Yankees have been as concerned as they were about getting a righty who hits lefties in there instead of Domínguez? I think the everyday reps can help him at AAA. And I don't know if Grichuk was the guy. My other hypotheticals that I'm going to pose are there are other confusing clogs on the roster. Paul Goldschmidt is here to play first base sometimes, but not that often. And Ryan McMahon is now your backup shortstop. Mm-hmm. Is having Paul Goldschmidt here more valuable than having Max Schuemann here? Yeah. Oswaldo Cabrera will be here in like a month. Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that having a dedicated backup first baseman who you don't even really want to see, and you don't want him to play, you want Ben Rice to play.
Yeah.
Like, that is more disruptive to me. Having a guy on the bench who you're like solid. We wrote off Paul Goldschmidt. I even enjoyed the Paul Goldschmidt experience last year. I hadn't thought about Paul Goldschmidt the whole offseason until he arrived, until he was back. Did you need to do both Paul Goldschmidt and Grichuk? Wasn't one of those should be fine, right? So Goldschmidt and Dominguez works. Grichuk and Schuemann works. I'm not sure Grichuk and Goldschmidt has the oomph and the point that the Yankees think it does. So I'm going to quibble with other areas of the bench more than this. There is no one in the lineup who Jasson Dominguez should be playing over. As soon as someone is unhealthy, Jasson Dominguez will be playing, and the defense still needs work, and I think regular reps are necessary. Again, we can check back on May 1st, and we will. If he's depressed and he's going Clint Frazier mode in Scranton, then the decision was wrong. Mm-hmm. But as of now, I think I see merit in the decision.
And look, I do too. Again, to an extent, it all depends on how we're viewing this, right? So great point there. I think we're arguing the same thing almost, where it's like, again, did the bench improve that much? Is Randal Grichuk and Paul Goldschmidt the solution? Is Randal Grichuk going to make your team that much better simply because he can hit left-handed pitching? Is Paul Goldschmidt going to make your team that much better simply because he can hit left-handed pitching? And are either of those guys worth the potential negative effect of a player's development if that turns out to be the case? Because Dominguez is, I guess I'm in the camp of just Dominguez is who he is, and the Yankees just need to reckon with that and figure it out. And again, he's been in the minor league since what, 2020? He's been 20. Well, has it been that long? He's been in he's gotten 4 or 5 years of reps in the minor leagues. His speed is MLB ready. His bat is, in theory, is MLB ready. I don't think the defense has ever been this much of an issue until he reached the major leagues. Like, I don't remember, and I never covered the Yankees minor league, so I don't know, but I distinctly do not remember seeing Jasson Dominguez defensive bloopers in the minor league.
And center field is his preferred position, and we never really got to see it in the minors because it's not easy to watch those games. I have someone in my inbox every so often who's like, I watched Dominguez in the minors. He has never had any idea how to play center field. I do not trust that person who's in my inbox constantly. It seemed like there were not genuine documented issue. Everyone can always get better, but that is a real issue. You're talking about a guy's preference. We know he prefers to play center field. We know they had center field available, and he's been hanging out in left field botching it for a year and a half.
They moved him off center field, right? So maybe there was a problem there that maybe wasn't as highly documented because they didn't want the issue to get overblown because they knew how delicate everything was around Jasson Dominguez at that point. But yeah, it just comes down to, like, I really, again, I'm confused on how much better this roster gets and how much better these guys getting everyday reps in the minor leagues changes the complexion of things. Like Max Schuemann, largely a major leaguer the last 2 years. Does he belong in the minor leagues? I don't know. Oswaldo Cabrera, largely in the major leagues the last 3 years. I understand that there are rep issues there due to the ankle injury, but he was also deemed a full go at the arrival of camp, and the Yankees held him back for reasons we still don't understand. And I think that a versatile defender on this roster is much more valuable than somebody who can hit left-handed hitting or left-handed pitching. I'm sorry. And that's really where my brain is at, because you're not getting rid of Paul Goldschmidt because they're paying him $4 million. So that's just not really an option to DFA him.
Yeah.
Randal Grichuk. Here is really where my thinking goes. If Randal Grichuk is knocking the shit out of left-handed pitching for the first 2 months of the season, and there are no injuries, Dominguez is just playing the whole year in AAA. That's just a genuine question. Yeah. And then the flip side, if Randal Grichuk absolutely eats paint for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season, then Jasson Dominguez just comes back up and we pretend like the reps thing wasn't the main reason that he got sent down to. So that's where my head's at, because the odds are Randal Grichuk will be average. I think that's the odds. I think he will be a 100 OPS plus guy who runs into one every so often and helps out that area that the Yankees are lacking in, but he's not actually changing anything that is altering the complexion of the Yankees. So unless you got an impact guy in here who is absolutely a potential all-star level talent, not at the back end of his career, has that experience of being able to come off the bench and immediately produce, which is a very hard job in Major League Baseball because of the consistency you need with reps, then I would say, great, Jasson Dominguez belongs in the minor leagues, and there's not really any argument to it. But the Yankees are telling me that in a worst-case scenario with Randal Grichuk, 2 months in the minor leagues for Jasson Dominguez is going to change Jasson Dominguez's entire player profile, or at least what they're concerned about, that's where I'm at. So, and that's where the confusing roster decisions come in for me. If they think he needs more development, okay, fine, but then get a better option to take over for him when you had the opportunity to do so in the offseason and just decided to make very, very few moves. I understand there's also the angle where it's like, well, we don't want to get a bona fide like star level option because then it definitely blocks Dominguez and it affects our trade leverage with Dominguez. I understand that too, but like piss or get off the pot, dude. It's either you like Dominguez or you don't. And that's kind of where I'm stuck because the organization had talked highly of him for however long. And then I get it that we got a number of unflattering plays from him, but they might be trying to make him into something he's not. And there's use for a guy with his tools off the bench. And I don't understand why Jasson Domínguez just can't be a really good bench guy who logs 120 games a year. If that's his ceiling, like I don't see, maybe the Yankees believe that would be a failure in their eyes, given all the hype that was surrounding him. But at this point, it just is what it is. And I don't think at 23 years old, he's learning defense. I just don't. Am I crazy to say that? I just don't think there's a world in which Jasson Domínguez is learning the basics of defense after playing baseball for 15 years of his life. Now he's going to figure it out. I don't know. Sorry.
My two other, and if you think this is a podcast that does not hold, whether we are aligned on the Yankees thinking or disagree with it, I have a ticking clock to all of my approvals of what they do. Like, I don't have a lot of patience if Randal Grichuk is bad. And so if any accusations, if somebody listened to minutes 5 through 20 of this podcast and then stopped, like, if you want to tell me I'm carrying water for Aaron Boone, if Randal Grichuk is bad on like April 23rd, I'm going to be losing my mind every day until they cut bait and cut the cord and DFA him, as we were doing with Jay Bruce and JD Davis and all of these familiar veterans who they got 4 or 5 years too late. I was reading Roy White's book because I love books. And he was talking about the early 70s Yankees and going through a list of like famous late 60s players who they cycled through as they continued to suck every year. And I was like, you know what? This is a familiar list because all these people he's mentioning are like B+ players at their peak who the Yankees had 4 years after their peak who were D- players. And the Yankees have a long history of finding those guys and filling them in, and Chris Carter and Neil Walker, and it seemingly never ends. And so if Randal Grichuk is not doing the business and he's not showing us anything, then I'm out early. I don't need to wait around for Randal Grichuk. I hope he does what the Yankees envision him doing. But I certainly will not be sitting here being like, an 18th chance for Randal Grichuk, madam, holding a bowl of porridge. It's not going to happen. And then the second thing, as Action VJ notes in the comments about a pre-UCL injury Jasson and post-injury Jasson, people do not talk enough about the Tommy John surgery. Not even in the way that it is. I'm not going to sit here and say it's affecting his career. Physically, I can't say he never recovered and he doesn't do X when he used to do X. But I can say that imagine if he ended 2023 the way he seemed to be after his promotion, right? And then he never succumbs to this injury. He enters 2024 with the job. We're not messing around with the people we're messing around with. Are we trading for Alex Verdugo if he doesn't have the surgical procedure? Or is he just starting alongside Aaron Judge and Juan Soto on a championship caliber roster? Right? And then we get a full year of him. And then he is in the spotlight. And so then if he is defensively disastrous in 2024, the Yankees get to make a quicker decision on it because they are in their 1 year of Juan Soto window. And then they can say in June, okay, oh God, backtrack. Or he's just an extremely valuable number 7 hitter with solid defense that no one really notices on a championship team. Like, the reason we're having all the conversations we're having about burying him and needing reps and being unfair and being blocked are because of the UCL tear. Without that, his life and our lives are completely different. And maybe in a way where he's off the roster 2 years ago, or maybe in a way where he's traded at peak value. We don't know. Different in so many ways. Not saying he's a star for the Yankees if he doesn't have that surgery, but literally the ripple effects of that are massive. I would love, I'm not going to give anybody homework, but if you go back to the crying episode we did after he got surgery at the end of 2023, a lot of it is that. A lot of it is just like, I'm not going to learn anything now. I lost hope and knowledge when Jasson Domínguez went down. And it's still true. He's buried now, and people are screaming about the Yankees misusing him, and maybe they are, and maybe they're not. But the reason why he's getting yo-yoed is because he had surgery at a horrible time in the fact-finding process, and then they acquired Juan Soto and had to remake everything on the fly.
And look, age is on his side, so that's why you shouldn't be up in arms about this simply because he's a 23-year-old. We've seen late bloomers, and the fact that he was able to achieve what he did in his first full major league season with all of his shortcomings, I think is something that that's where the positive focus should be. But at the same time, we're always worried because if you look at the last point I'll make here is if you look at guys like Jasson Domínguez, Oswaldo Cabrera, we'll talk about Oswaldo Cabrera and Luis Gil here in a second, because I think all of these three end up in a similar bucket. And then you look at Cam Schlittler, Ben Rice, Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, and they're in their own bucket. So I think that these two different groups of players have been treated incredibly differently. And there have been reasons for the bucket, the Dominguez, Cabrera, and Gil bucket because of injuries. But they have not been afforded the same luxuries as these guys over here in Rice, Schlittler, Wells, and Volpe, who have gotten leash to perhaps at least Wells and Volpe have gotten leash to a degree where it's like, what are we even doing here? Like, how are you looking at these players and saying that they don't need more run in the minor leagues? How are you looking at these players and saying they don't need a reset? But you're looking at someone like Jasson Domínguez and you're like, yeah, that guy absolutely needs a there's no question about it. Like, yeah, it's got to happen. For Schlittler and Rice, they were fast risers. So I think that the manner in which that they were able to propel themselves into the major league and make an impact, the manner in which they've had, those are arguably the two most promising Yankees prospects in, I don't know, the last 15 years. And I think that the Yankees wanted that to happen with Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe, and they're not getting that. So they're trying to force it. So with that's where it's the tale of these two prospect tales, where we get confused over how the Yankees handle some certain players, yet there is this overarching theme of the Yankees mishandling players no matter what they do. They fast track them, they're wrong. They keep them down to develop a little bit longer, they're also wrong. So hopefully Schlittler and Rice break this trend, because we want the Yankees to win. We think the Yankees are good. We like the Yankees. We also like young players developing in the Yankee system. I think this is the most exciting it's ever been. But with that happening, you can't sit here and say, oh yeah, this is normal. This is the right stuff, treating this guy like this and treating that guy like that. We saw the same thing with Oswald Peraza. Was he good? No, he wasn't good, but I mean, he did what he could to prove himself and get to the point where he needed to be, and then they just passed him over for Anthony Volpe. And we will never know if the Volpe decision just completely torpedoed Peraza's mental capability because of how that all went down. We have the Clint Frazier situation, which we've talked about ad nauseum. We have the Gary Sanchez stuff, which, again, up and down, like a complicated thing. You have the Luis Severino stuff, complicated up and down, like with their relationship with the team and how they handled certain things. So there's a lot of confusion here for me with the Yankees player development process and why they choose to prioritize certain players. And I find it hard to buy into what they're doing. And I understand that this is a transition period for player development and, at least international player development. So we'll see what happens. But again, this is what they're doing. This is the reality. And we have, all these other decisions. Oswaldo Cabrera got squeezed off the roster, which, again, I don't know if that's the right decision. Is Oswaldo Cabrera a great baseball player? No, he's not. He's another switch hitter who can't hit from the right side. Again, a Yankees player development problem. Like, you identify this man as a switch hitter, and then you realize for 4 years he can't switch hit. So whose decision is it to tell the man, you are no longer a switch hitter? That would be the team's decision, in my opinion, because I don't know a world in which where the player is like, no, I'm going to switch hit for as long as I want. And then the team would be like, great, then you will not play on days where you choose to bat on, again, on the other side of the plate against this pitcher on a certain day. So there's that. Oswaldo Cabrera, I think, is a great versatile defensive option. He's one of our more reliable defenders. He can play almost all over the field, so I thought there was value there. And then Max Schuemann, I thought the whole point of getting him this offseason was to get help at shortstop. And instead of giving him reps at shortstop this spring, that I think he got the least amount of reps at shortstop of any positions that he played. And now you're going with Ryan McMahon as the backup shortstop in theory here. So another very confusing thing when McMahon's limitations with playing shortstop are range, which is the main thing you need to play shortstop. And then you have Luis Gil, who is probably going to be optioned to start the year. Could it be just a formality so the Yankees can carry an extra pitcher while they get through the 2 rounds of the rotation? They don't need a 5th starter until April 11th. So that's a significant development for them to pitch the guys that they want on and take advantage of these off days. But again, Luis Gil was the rookie of the year. He's pitched better than Ryan Weathers. He's better than half the bullpen. So again, what's the logic? You're again telling me that Luis Gil needs time in the minor leagues, much like you're telling me with Jasson Domínguez, yet there are players rostered who are worse than him. So again, it could be it could just be a technicality or a formality for the Yankees to buy time and strike when they think it makes the most sense. But when have they done that, and when has it worked out? And that's where my thought process, that's where my pessimism comes in, because it doesn't line up for me.
Yeah, I do think some people are incorrectly or weighting incorrectly the Yankees' usage of spring stats to make these decisions. Like, they're not demoted, like they didn't carry Randal Grichuk over Dominguez because they're not basing these choices on guys' spring performance, and they never will. So saying like they sent Schuemann down, I don't get it. He hit 280. Like, hey, maybe they should be. Maybe that's how you should. Maybe you wish they weighted that a little bit more. But if you're using that as justification for or against what the Yankees are doing, believe you me, they're not paying any attention to that. So just because Luis Gil, dominated in his last start after struggling, if they're weighing that into account, they're weighing it because of the adaptation to the release point change and because of the swing and miss and because of the metrics, not because, wait a second, he threw 5 shutout innings in spring training. Now we have to pay more attention to Luis Gil. So Max Schuemann did everything asked of him and had just as much of a case as Jasson Domínguez did almost to make this roster. And I think the most egregious part of the Yankees bench mix is ending up with Ryan McMahon as their backup shortstop, seemingly by accident, something they proposed at random during the middle of spring. Hey, what if Ryan McMahon got some reps at short? Would you guys like that? And then he got some reps and they were pretty much not good and he didn't look like a shortstop. And at the end of it, they're like, yeah, so that was enough for us. We're going to do it anyway. So we did. I don't like Ryan McMahon backup shortstop. Hopefully I don't have to deal with it for that long, but Anthony Volpe is going to need a full spring training after he returns to rehab games, which is mid-April. So we'll see him in mid-May at earliest. And do we want to see him? Do we not? I mean, I don't know, but we won't. So it doesn't matter if you want to see him or not. He's not ready. You're going to have a month and a half with Jose Caballero and back up Ryan McMahon, unless you act fast on Schuemann. Unless you figure this out, unless there's an injury, which, again, we know that there will be. I can knock on as much wood as I want. I can guarantee you the Yankees aren't getting to mid-May without having to do something injury-wise. And now Luis Gil and his potential, I'm glad we got this podcast out before we learn his fate. It's not a permanent trip to the bullpen. This is more just like, again, you can trace this back months to the Yankees trying to justify their own decisions. If you want to argue that sending Luis Gil to the minors for the first turn through the rotation, it depends on what you want to argue with. Because I would say if your argument is Ryan Weathers has looked really hittable, he's looked like the same, and the metrics will show that he should be a different pitcher, but he's not. So if your argument is Ryan Weathers should have been the guy to go down through the first turn through the rotation, I hear you. That is definitely an argument. Especially, I mean, the visuals of Weathers getting this start are awful based on what he's done lately, and the noise is going to be catastrophically loud if he is bad against a World Series hopeful in the Seattle Mariners. So valid. There's a chance that the Yankees just botched that one. It's so complicated though, because right now, I would argue Weathers versus Gil, there's an argument. Gil to the major league roster versus Gil to the minors to start the year, I don't think there's an argument because I don't want Luis Gil in the middle of I can't believe he learned what he learned so quickly as to have a flat, dead, hittable fastball that he couldn't command. And then he learned release point tricks and a new sinker with Matt Blake. And between starts looked as good as he's looked since the start of 2024 against the Orioles in that spring start. It was incredible. So if I'm the Yankees, I'm saying, I don't know how I don't think even they thought it would happen that quickly. I don't think they thought he'd make this decision so difficult because I think they thought it would take 3 weeks to get him to even passable levels with these new mechanics, but he did it right away. So if I'm the Yankees, I'm saying I don't want to turn him from my biggest problem in the rotation to all of a sudden he's taken to the fix and he looks totally workable, but now I'm going to take him out of his rhythm and now I'm going to throw him in the major league bullpen. And when I do that, I'm going to lose an asset because of it. Because either I'm going to lose Cade Winquest entirely, or I'm going to lose someone in Jake Bird or Brent Hedrick who's probably more ready to help this roster than Cade Winquest is. Now you can keep Gil on that rhythm, keep working on the new Gil, keep him in the minor leagues instead of shoving him into an how many long men do we need? Gil, Yarbrough, Blackburn, and one of them is a guy who's remaking himself at the same time. And so if you bring him into a game, he's going to be thinking through how to work through it. It's different in a regular season game than it is in spring training. Versus now you get to carry 3 relievers when you thought you were going to get to carry 2 for about 2 weeks. You get Hedrick and Bird, who both outperformed Winquest. And now you can actually bury Winquest. It's hard to bury he's ticked up lately. Stuff looks better. You've bought yourself an extra 2.5, 3 weeks to evaluate him. And then if you need more time, you can demote Bird or Hedrick when you're ready to bring Gil back. And so the Yankees have gotten a gift here. I don't think they can look that gift in the mouth. I don't think it would be smart of them to interrupt Gil's workflow and lose a bullpen arm in the process. I think he's got to go down if you're not going to send Weathers down. If you want to say Gil's never going to look better than he did in his last spring training start, forget the interruptions, forget any of this messy mechanics. Weathers looks awful. Have him work on himself at AAA, put Gil in the rotation now. That I can get down with. I can be convinced of that for sure. But Gil to the minors versus losing Winquest versus, limiting yourself and turning Gil into a temporary reliever, that I feel like we got to send him down if that's the decision.
Yeah. And there is no world in which I just outright, I disagree. You're sending Luis Gil down to the minor leagues, or Luis Gil is getting a late start to the season because he needs to work on stuff. I don't disagree with that. Again, it comes down to the player treatment. So we are going to reward, and if we're talking about spring stats don't matter, right? Because that's typically how this all comes to be. The spring competition doesn't matter, because if the spring competition mattered, Jasson Domínguez would have a roster spot. Luis Gil would be in the rotation over Ryan Weathers, and that would be that. So Luis Gil going down, but prioritizing Cade Winquest, who is bad, prioritizing Brent Hedrick, who I think is fine. And
Winquest seems bad, by the way.
Yeah.
Even though the fastball has gotten a little bit better, I don't see it. And this is another decision the Yankees locked themselves into months ago when they decided to stake a Rule 5 claim on him. You got to use it.
Exactly. It's the predetermined decision. It's like, we're getting this guy. We like this guy in the past. He's on this roster because we're selecting him in this draft. And that's what's going to happen. So then you operate from this point, and then there's ripple effects that go down based on whatever is happening. And then you have you and I talking about it on a podcast. And that's how we got here, folks. But you have Cade Winquest, who is not good, decidedly not good. Could he be good eventually? Sure. But he's not shown us any inclination that he is going to be good now or in the next couple months. You have Brent Hedrick, who was okay in his limited action last year, but that's an inexperienced player who is not providing immediate value to your bullpen. And then you have Jake Bird, who, yes, I think he's looked better this spring. I don't think that that's really debatable. It's night and day compared to what he did after the trade deadline last year, both in the majors and the minor leagues. But I mean, he's also had a history of not being good. So now you're going to tell me that Jake Bird and Brent Heydrich's stats in spring training matter enough to kick Luis Gil off the roster? That's where the confusion comes in for me. And again, it could just be clerical work. We got to get these guys reps. We have to see what they can do. We have to see if they can fit with the roster, what have you, whatever. But we talked all spring, and it wasn't just us. It was the Yankees media machine. Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon out. Don't need to worry. Look at all these options we got. We just traded for Ryan Weathers. We have 2024 Rookie of the Year Luis Gil. Now we're going into the year with 4 members of the starting rotation, and one of them possibly spending maybe all of April in the minor leagues in Luis Gil. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I think he's probably going to be back in mid-April, but what if his first start is bad and they say that he has to stay down there longer? To me, Luis Gil working out mechanical issues as a member of the bullpen at the major league level and booting out one of the guys who are decidedly not good is more valuable. That's me, and I'm not in charge of baseball operations anywhere, so my opinion probably doesn't matter. But all I'm saying is that if the pitching staff goes off the rails in any capacity, if the rotation kind of falls apart at the seams because you're not getting the production you need to, maybe Max Fried gets off to a slow start. Like, have we ever thought of that? If Max Fried gets off to a slow start, this is looking really bleak. If the back end of the bullpen isn't immediately nails at the start of the season, like, this is looking really bleak because all those guys beneath David Bednar, Tim Hill, Camilo Doval, and there's already questions with everyone except David Bednar, essentially. Like, it's just not going to look good. And the fact that it feels like the Yankees are going in with a skeleton crew and making these other decisions at the expense of, I don't know, has things feeling bizarre. I'm rooting for him. I hope some of these guys step up. I hope Cade Winquist earns playing time. Why would I not want that to happen? I would like an extra guy on my team helping out. It's just, we haven't seen it. And then there's the catch-22 with the spring training performance. You perform bad. The Yankees didn't care. They already said, oh, it doesn't matter how this guy performs. If he performs poorly, he's still making the roster. You perform well, there's no merit in it. It's, oh, well, we already had the backlog here, so you got to figure it out yourself, buddy. You'll be at AAA or you'll be thrown at the team's facility to start the year. So my argument's much less like nuanced from the individual picture of it all, like how all the pieces fit together and going into the analysis of like, oh, like his stuff was ticking up a little bit. They viewed this a little bit more favorably. They think they can make this work in the first month of the season. I just don't see on the surface how that, like Ryan Weathers, to me, I don't know how that's going to work. Because you talk about Ryan Weathers for his career. We talked about it the day he was traded. He's averaged 13 games a year for the last 4 years. He's constantly injured, and his stuff is really good, but it gets clobbered. His stuff this spring has been really good, and it's gotten absolutely clobbered. It's gotten clobbered more than any other pitcher on this team this spring. So I understand there's concerns with Luis Gil's release point. There's concerns with his fastball. If his fastball is not well, his secondary offerings are that much worse. He's getting crushed. David Cohn said it on the broadcast when he got lit up in his worst spring start. He gave up 7 earned runs 2 starts ago or 3 starts ago or whatever. The one before the Orioles start. He said Luis Gil's locating. He's just locating bad pitches and he's getting crushed. Like, yeah, I mean, that's part of the game. And like, that's part of spring training too, right? Like, you're working out some of the kinks. You're trying to figure out where your stuff's going and how you can better refine your arsenal. But then what's Ryan Weathers been doing for his 3-star? He beat down on a AA lineup in the Nationals, who he had familiar facing the last 2.5 years as a member of the Miami Marlins. So, like, to be honest with you, I'm throwing that one out. That doesn't count to me. His last 3, he's gotten absolutely destroyed. I don't care if he recovered in 1 or 2 of them and managed to get past like the early offensive onslaught, because you have 3 really bad starts from someone who is not supposed to be this bad, or someone you traded 4 prospects for and were hopeful that he was going to add value to your rotation. So we've seen Luis Gil at his worst, I think. Like, he's inaccurate. He's erratic, but he generally always figures it out, and he very rarely has blow-up starts. Ryan Weathers had 3 in a row, and he's taking the mound tomorrow after Garrett Cole starts.
Mhm.
So we'll see if that's a bad outing. Like, I don't know what people are going to be saying. That's it. Like, it's tough to see these decisions made. And to me, I mean, this could be hot takey, but it just feels like instead of optioning Weathers, they went to option Gil because they didn't want to admit fault for that trade that they made with the Marlins. And that's just what it feels like, because Gil has the track record of proving himself in the Yankees system, and Ryan Weathers has no track record of proving himself like throughout his entire MLB career.
Yeah, I'm already tired of Ryan Weathers before the season begins. And like, I'll eat as much crow as it takes on this.
Hope he's good.
I can't wait. I hope he's great, but I couldn't be more tired of just, again, seeing this is a project. We've seen the same results we've seen for years on this project, and we're not ready to see the new version of this project unveiled, but we're going to. And this is completely from my mouth and my brain, and no, there is nothing. I'm not being told anything on this. I haven't seen anything on this. The fact that we're still waiting on Gil's demotion makes it seem like this is a sensitive situation and is one of those where actually he might be offended if you demote him, because the obvious answer is demote him. This doesn't even, at this point to me, there shouldn't even be a debate here. You'll be up. You'll be starting in 11 days. Take the demotion now so that we can figure out the bullpen while you're gone. And the fact that it's Monday night, the game is Wednesday night, and Aaron Boone still says we'll have a decision for you later, feels like they have a decision, but they know the pitcher is not going to respect the decision, and it's not going to go well. So that's just from my brain. That's not coming from the team.
It's a good brain take.
No insider said that. That's a take from my human brain, that we don't know what we're dealing with Jasson Domínguez, how he's going to, accept or reject. But I feel like they might know how this particular person is going to accept or reject the reality of heading down. So we'll see what they decide. I think the decision is clear. I think they have already made the decision. We'll see how it goes. Couple quick hits before we sign off, mostly fun, because we have fun mini trade. We have fun Ben Rice growing to the next level of his stardom. I think this is, the most obvious maybe thing that ever happened. The only reason that Ben Rice and Ben's original Rice wouldn't team up is if the world was like, I don't know who Ben Rice is, which is valid. I don't know, baseball fans, how many of you are eating rice regularly? But if you're watching the New York Yankees and you watched them during the playoffs last year and you're aware that they have a guy named Ben Rice, you were probably sitting at home going to Rice should pay him. Ben Rice should get paid by Rice. And so as long as they have decided that enough people were watching, Ben Rice is collaborating with Ben's original. And together with No Kid Hungry, they are providing access to up to 22,000 meals for kids facing food insecurity through No Kid Hungry, inspired by the number 22 on Ben Rice's jersey. The video package of Ben Rice diving in his kitchen, catching rice in a blank hat is immaculate. He is, again, this delivers on essentially everything that Ben Rice's first major endorsement needs, except for, I don't know if I've missed it, but Ben Rice speaks great Spanish. And so in the locker room has sort of been very well known for, Benny Arroz, and he's been very communicative with his Latin teammates. So I don't know if there's a Spanish Rice variant coming, or if like Ben Rice will eventually be like Ben's original taco night. Like, I don't know where we go from here, but other than that, I feel like he probably hit the nail on the head with this one.
It's got to be some sort of stadium thing.
If there are Austin Wells breakfast burritos last year, which the Yankees were like, good news, we're announcing an Austin Wells breakfast burrito partnership, and everyone was like, that sounds cool. And they're like, they're available between the hours of 11 a.m. and 11:24 a.m. on weekday, Wednesdays only. And everyone was like, there's no home game on Wednesday, and it starts at 7 p.m. The Yankees were like, screw you, no burritos for you. So like, if they can make the partnership maybe easier to follow or facilitate, that would be great. I never had the Wells burrito. I wanted it, but I didn't have any Tuesday morning game tickets, so I couldn't take advantage of it.
The Wells burrito, forgive me if this is ignorant, but it was simply because he likes burritos.
Yeah, he made that. He just started reviewing breakfast burritos, and then the Yankees were
He was
oh,
reviewing them on his social media account?
yeah, and then that's why Michael Kay started reviewing chicken tenders, which that's brazen. That was so brazen. I'm gonna get Michael Kay on here to debate him news phase. Like, how dare you? One of the Yankees is reviewing burritos, and you are plagiarizing. I mean, I don't
remember that. Why? How did I miss this?
Michael Kay Austin Wells started reviewing burritos at April last year, and then Michael Kay was like, I think I have this original idea where I'm going to go town to town and review chicken tenders. And it was like, are these not playing off each other at all? Are these not in concert? Or are you just pretending you came up with that? So we'll see this year if Meredith Marakovitz starts reviewing Nerds Ropes from City to City or something. But that was weird, and I never got to try the burrito. And I think it's probably gone now. But yeah, some sort of Ben Rice dish is
okay.
Paella, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Definitely got to do something. The Uncle Ben's rice, good stuff. Big Sopranos cameo back in the day. I'm happy for Ben Rice. I mean, again, the rise of Ben Rice. Mentioned it before. The prospect pedigree. He was kind of a nobody out of Dartmouth, and now he's, I don't know, is he rivaling Anthony Volpe's behind the scenes? What do you call it? Endorsement deals? Because apparently Anthony Volpe has a ton of endorsement deals. He was on a bus, Anthony Volpe, apparently for an ad earlier in the offseason.
I know.
How did he get that? Who gave him that?
Charles Tierhuit has definitely given Anthony Volpe men's fashion endorsements. Because my friends will always text me those, because again, it is very weird to see him on a poster for Suits. You haven't seen these?
No.
Oh yeah, Anthony Volpe. I believe that's who it is. Yep, it auto completes on Google, so that's definitely who it is. They have a tab for him. He's a brand ambassador. He's got an X, Charles Tierhuit X Anthony Volpe, and his beautiful, jackets and looks. So, yeah, you can shop his look if you want to.
Oh my God.
The denim shirt's down to $44.75. So if you're trying to look like Anthony Volpe,
the Volpe discount.
Is there a reason this is 80% off?
The early season Volpe injury discount
started at $119, now $44.75. I mean, that sort of screams that we don't want Anthony Volpe's clothes to be associated with him anymore. We want to get him out of the house.
The partnership has gone sideways, folks. We're in big trouble with Yankees endorsements.
A note from Charles Tierwood himself going, we have to distance ourselves from the Volpe stock. That one makes a little bit less sense, I would say. Another fond farewell in the Yankees infield, not just Volpe. Yorbeat Vivas gone yesterday. Sort of lost in the shuffle, I think, a little bit of discussing the spring training. We knew he was not going, never had a chance to make the team. Not even an iota. We never even had to talk about it. But he is out of options. So somehow this snuck past me pretty much all spring that they were going to have to do something with him, if not DFA him. And then on Sunday, they trade him for the Nationals. Somebody, you got me. You Twitter baited me. You said he's the Nationals' 11th ranked pitching prospect. And I was like, 11th ranked? And then he's the 11th ranked pitching prospect. There are 26 prospects ranked by Pipeline ahead of him, and 10 of them are pitchers. Still not bad. He's a top 30 guy, and it's an interesting dude who spams changeups, who comes from the Dodger system. MLB's write-up said he has arguably the best changeup in the minors. Unfortunately, he does not have the best anything else in the minors, and you need a fastball that can keep people off balance, and this man does not have that. But the changeup is, everybody shivered at the exact same time, Devin Williams level, I've been told. So I've been told by sentences I've read, and I saw videos, and it is pretty nasty. But look, odds are we never hear from this guy. Odds are the Yankees cannot beef up his fastball to the point where his secondary stuff plays up. But to get that for Vivas, a guy who last year looked beyond overmatched, his highlight was having a long at-bat and chopping a ground ball to Pete Alonso that Pete Alonso threw away. I think he also homered to win a 1-0 game against the Rangers. But both of those one of those was a ground out, and one of those was a miracle. So I will not miss him in this roster mix at all.
I would like to know why the beat writers felt like, were Yankees fans flipping out about that? Every beat writer was like, just so you know, he was not making the roster. And it was like, yeah, like, is now every Yankees beat writer just conditioned to have some sort of defensive reaction in case fans flip out? Like, very bizarre. Like, don't worry, folks, He was not considered to make the roster. The Yankees needed to clear space, and they ended up getting value for it. It ended up being good for them. Don't worry. Everything's good now. Bebas, sorry, is another example of the Yankees' poor, just overall scouting and player development. If you remember correctly, before the 2024 season, they had traded Trey Sweeney for Bebas and Victor Gonzalez with the Dodgers, which allowed the Dodgers to clear roster space for Shohei Ohtani. And the Dodgers then ended up using Trey Sweeney to acquire Jack Flaherty at the trade deadline. And the Yankees ended up with Gonzalez, who was bad for 23 games and has not pitched in Major League Baseball since. And then I think for a short point in time, the Yankees believed that maybe Bebas could have been some sort of asset on the infield for them, and he ended up being essentially a AAA contributor and nothing more. So when you look at the trade through that lens, it's like insane. I mean, yeah, I like this guy's offerings that they got. Like, if they can actually make that a bullpen asset, I think that would be huge for them. But I mean, this trade was nothing. Both trades were nothing. Didn't help the Yankees. Actually directly helped the team that beat them in the 2024 World Series and is now threatening to usurp the 98-2000 Yankees with a three-peat this year. So yeah, sounds a little bit dramatic, but it's what happened. It's what the Yankees did. I didn't do it.
No, you didn't do it. I think beat writers, like I think you mentioned, I think they're now like a little bit scared of the bot replies on Twitter, because there are just endless bots who will say variations on, what are the Yankees doing? This roster looks more unsettled than ever heading into opening day. Losing Yorby Bebas is just another blow to a roster that doesn't make sense. Like, they've trained the Grok bots on the way the Yankee fans complain. And so you will get an endless wave of, like, first Jasson Domínguez, now Yorby Bebas. The Yankees have lost their way. They need to seriously consider a front office change. And you're just like, who are people actually saying this? And I don't think people are saying this, but I do think that's why writers are like, relax. He's not on the roster. He's not even on the roster. He's never going to be. He's not a guy at all. He doesn't matter, because
I'm trying to pull these up because, like, it was serious, like the way it did. Yeah. Gary Phillips, Yorby Bebas mentions the trade was out of minor league option and wasn't going to make the Yankees roster. Okay. That was actually decent context. Chris Kirshner had one that was like, what? Chris Kirshner also tweeted pain, misery, suffering with Florida losing yesterday.
Yeah.
They won the national championship last year. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Where was the other one? I got to find it now, because it was just like so clearly like, whoa, relax, guys. I'm not going to find it though, because there's been so many tweets since. Let's see.
We'll keep the stream live until we
get
everybody.
Oh yeah, no, he just quote tweeted another one and was like, Vivas was out of options and not making the roster. It's like, okay. I don't think it was necessary context, because nobody cares about your Bebas. So it was just like, it's not like the Yankees traded away. I don't even know what. It's not like the Yankees traded away Oswaldo Cabrera randomly. They're like, oh, where'd this guy go? Why'd you do that? It's like, no, they traded away a guy that you have never paid attention to in your entire life. Why are we adding like this immediate context? But whatever. Bebas didn't help anything. He was a solid AAA player. That's that. I have one more note on Christian Campbell. I forgot to mention that earlier. I don't know what's going to end up being more embarrassing throughout this whole thing. Jasson Domínguez not panning out to be an alien, which was never realistic anyway, since aliens are not part of our everyday lives, or so we know at this point. Or the Reds, or Jeff Passan writing a column last year saying the Red Sox developed the three greatest prospect, or the greatest prospect trio in Major League history, and it was Christian Campbell, Roman Anthony, and Marcelo Meyer. Marcelo Meyer batted 180 this spring in 40 plate appearances and got the opening day second baseman job for reasons unknown, simply because the Red Sox probably can't afford to have bad PR surrounding these three prospects. Christian Campbell is being paid $60 million to play in AAA, and Roman Anthony, everyone's anointing him the next MVP. He's played in 70 Major League Baseball games.
Yeah, so I really like the Athletics bold prediction of Roman Anthony wins MVP. Is that a bold prediction, or is that just what literally everyone is saying? That it, like, Everyone is hyping Roman Anthony as if he is the MVP. So did you make a bold prediction, or did you just read the internet for a couple hours and go, oh, you know what would be interesting to say? You know what people would retweet if I said Roman Anthony wins MVP? It could happen. It probably won't. It could. If he is the person I'm being told he is, then it will within the next couple of years. So, like, not bold at all. You just got very boldly gathering retweets and gathering a bunch of clapping seals going, I told you so. Christian Campbell, again, it might happen at some point. This was the point I was trying to make with Dominguez. Dominguez was in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s on these prospect lists. Christian Campbell was unknown and rose to 3 last year. 2. Like, he was atop the mountain. And then they paid him, and then he was terrible in the first half and terrible in the minors and terrible in spring.
Negative 1 WAR in 67 games last year.
People were calling Jasson Domínguez a 0.5 WAR player in my mentions as a way to demean him over the weekend. And it's like, you don't want to see what Christian Campbell did. He subtracted 1.1 and 150 fewer at-bats last year. He was the biggest net negative you could have in your lineup on a given day. And I am magnanimous. I'm not writing him off forever. He could come back and be great.
Sure.
I'm not like you people. I'm not saying it's over for Christian Campbell. Like you're saying it's over for Jasson Domínguez. I'm just saying that if you're weighing who is less of a contributor last year and whose demotion is more embarrassing, it's definitely Christian Campbell, who they're admitting, like, we overhauled his swing and he didn't really do what we wanted him to do this spring. And the mechanics just like are not there. It's like, okay, so his swing is broken. He's a negative WAR contributor and he's making $60 million. Are any of those things less embarrassing than the Jasson Domínguez reality, where he's blocked by Cody Bellinger, Aaron Judge, and Trent Grisham? No, I don't think so, actually. But it's fine. There's time for Christian Campbell. See, I'm being generous. It's not over.
Not a baseball player right now, though. If you're overhauling every aspect of somebody's game, not a baseball player.
It really sounds like you're trying to build him up from level 0. And that's, that's fine. He's making $60 million. I don't understand how Red Sox fans could be on a high horse about this. But actually, yes, I do. Because only they're allowed to criticize their team. They can say this is the worst lineup on God's green earth. And then when you're like, hey, the Christian Campbell thing makes no sense. They're like, hey, shut up. We're perfect. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. I don't hear anything out of you. Only I can do that. Only I can deeply complain about my own roster that papers over every hole it has and wins 90 plus games every single year and wins the World Series by accident every half decade. Well, we're on the verge of a new season. Will they be the champions? Will it be the New York Yankees? Will it be those 3-peating Dodgers who gave us your beat Bebos in exchange for Shohei Ohtani, kind of? It'll probably be the Dodgers, but we are starting a new season on Wednesday night against the Dodgers' enemy, the San Francisco Giants in San Francisco. We'll see what transpires on opening day. You can catch us on Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern, here on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
At Tommy's_takes. You can find the both of us at the official Yanks Go Yard account. That is at Yanks Go Yard FS. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Appreciate all the commenters today. Thank you guys for showing up and continuing the discourse. Please head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the written content is. Plenty of stuff that we are not talking about on this podcast that you need to read about as it relates to the Yankees. I know there was a lot of tough stuff discussed today because of all the decisions that were made and how I think the fans at large viewed it, but we're excited. Opening night is Wednesday against San Francisco Giants. We'll see the Yankees getting down to biz, and then they have an off day on Thursday because, I don't know, probably so the Giants don't have 2 weekday games to start the year because nobody else should have that. They should be starting on the weekend so you can make the most money possible. But I am not in the business of baseball economics. Excited for the start of the season, hoping that I get proven wrong. I hope Cade Winquist is a bullpen asset. I hope Randal Grichuk is batting .270 with 20 homers. I hope I don't have to revisit any of the stuff that I talked about. I hope Jasson Dominguez, the everyday reps in AAA, improve his defense and his right-handed hitting. I don't see it. I don't have the goggles on to see it. Maybe somebody else does, but we'll be talking about it all season long, everybody. The offseason, done. We'll see you again on Thursday after the Yankees' first game of the season. 1-0 or 0-1? What do you think?
I'm actually going 0-1 because it's been a while since they've lost on opening day. And I don't think that's an indictment of it just has. No. And every year I say that. And last year I'm like, the Brewers, that's a tough matchup. They'll probably lose that. And then they did not lose that. And so the longer it goes where I'm like, wow, I'm actually not angry on opening day. That's interesting. The more I feel like it's likely that I am going to be angry on opening day. So give me Give me a loss that's not even long-term judgment of the team. It's just they're going to lose an opening day at some point, aren't they? They're not the Mets. What do you think?
I think the Giants the Giants suck. The Giants are like if the Yankees were on the West Coast and were just that much worse at everything. The Giants have the market. They have they have the recent success on their side. They have history on their side, if we're being honest. They have a long franchise history. I don't know what has happened since that run in the mid 2000s, but whatever they've been trying to do over these last like 10 years has just been abominable, in my opinion. They did nothing this offseason to make them that much. And look, they're going to win some baseball games. I don't doubt it, but I don't think there's much based on what I've read a decent amount of baseball stuff this offseason. I don't think there's any hype surrounding them coming into the 2026 season. And I think that's reflected in the first matchup of the year. And you have the whole Aaron Judge angle again. We did this 2 years ago when Judge went to San Francisco. Nice little doctored video of him hanging out in the hotel, pretending like he was going to leave the Yankees. Then we had opening day against the Giants a few months later. We got it again. Aaron Judge is in San Francisco this time. Maybe he tours the facilities of where he was at last time and relives that near departure in free agency. But yeah, I'm going Yankees win. Max Fried should be fine. Lineup should do enough. Is it Logan Webb versus Max Fried? Is that what it is?
It sure is. Yes,
it is. Yeah. Logan Webb was solid during the World Baseball Classic. I don't even remember at this point.
He was fine. He was somehow our number one in the World Baseball Classic, even though they had to convince him in the back of a country music singer's bus to join Team USA for the WBC, as they told me during every broadcast, because there was nothing else interesting about him. Won 4 opening days in a row. I think it's up for grabs in this particular one. And I'm just the last opening day they lost was extremely emblematic of the season to come. It was 2021, and it involved a tie game in the bottom of the ninth. Gary Sanchez walks, Mike Tauchman steals second, Jay Bruce whiffs as Mike Tauchman steals third. The winning run is on third in the bottom of the ninth. Clint Frazier walks. Here comes DJ LeMahieu and Aaron Judge. All you got to do is hit a fly ball. DJ LeMahieu gets the runner out at the plate, and Aaron Judge strikes out swinging. And Randal Grichuk drives in the run in the top of the 10th that wins the game on a double with the ghost runner. So that's what we were dealing with the last time the Yankees lost opening day. I'm going to make a bold prediction that I don't think they're going to win this one, but that it is not going to have anything to do with the rest of the season in the way that one did. I think it's just going to be an outlier loss. We regroup. We get a day off to breathe. Cam Schlittler looks good when he comes back and toes the rubber in game 2, but we'll see. That's kind of a pessimistic take, but not really. It's just sort of a 1 day's worth of pessimism. We'll see you after the game. We'll know what happened. We'll yell about it. We have an off day on Thursday, which is great. As the rest of opening day unfolds, everyone else can enjoy that, except for the teams that open on Friday. There are 6 teams that do not play until Friday.
Right.
Who did this? Whose schedule-making prowess is on display here? I couldn't possibly tell you. Thanks for joining us, though, for the extra long pod. We'll see you after the Yankees' first game of the season. Until then, read yanksgoyard.com. Read the Yanks Go Yard content on Twitter. We'll catch you later in the week.